Full meeting for August 15, 2017. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again call the roll.
Trustee Kammerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Daney?
Here.
Gabrenya? Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
President Wallace.
Here. First item we have on our agenda this evening is under planning and zoning, and you'd think I'd have this memorized by now. Chairman Hopkins.
President Wallace, we have 3 items under planning and zoning tonight. The first is the Home Depot subdivision of Lot 1. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Plonzinski.
Thank you, Trustee Hopkins. This is a project that we're very excited about. It's a re-subdivision of a subdivided lot that happened a couple of years ago for a bank lot, and we still have the same attorney, Larry Friedman, representing his client in a new layout of this subdivision. But essentially, you're looking at the front of the Home Depot lot, which
I don't think you should be smirking because we still have the same public communities director, too. Right?
They're both old.
There we go. This was subdivided in 2000. What Home Depot obviously desires is to sell a portion of their front of their property off to create, in this instance, a nice commercial retail building. It's approximately going to be an 8,200 square foot retail site divided into 4 units initially. These are just renderings, again, no commitments at this time as to what it is going to be, but they are asking for a couple of things. One is a preliminary final subdivision of this lot, a second site plan amendment for that original lot, site plan for this lot, and special uses to allow for a drive-through establishment and outdoor seating. There are some variations contained within this layout because obviously it's a carve-out of an existing parking lot. So there's going to be a side yard setback on the south property line, request for variation there, a side yard parking setback for that same area, and then a rear yard building setback for Lot 2, which is the rear yard is here, and then goes back to the Home Depot parking lot. Because they're putting this in, they're asking for a variation on the reduction in their required number of parking stalls. Originally, Home Depot was granted a variation back in the day, as they say, and they have decided that they believe that even with this layout and this outlot, they can still accommodate the services and the needs for their clients. When it comes down to, when it's all said and done, we're 458 spaces, and then they will add it'll go down to 399 if this is approved. So as I stated, the petitioner is represented by attorney Larry Friedman, who has done a lot of work in Bartlett over the years, and then the architect for the project. And if there's any questions, they're here to answer them, if I can try to answer any questions. But it's before you to move on to both zoning board and plan commission.
Any questions from the committee?
I think it's fabulous.
As a general concept, I'm supportive of this. It's still very, very early on. Parking's obviously going to be an issue, and for me, it can be a dispositive issue. I'm very familiar with this property. I'm probably there every weekend, probably spending too much money at Home Depot, as my wife can attest to. But I think you're going to come up short on parking. I think it's going to be a real issue for you. So if you can do something to maybe increase the number of parking spaces, I don't know how you do that, but that would certainly be my suggestion to you.
I would have to agree with Trustee Rankin. I think I'm there quite often myself, and parking is an issue. I don't think it would be such an issue if Home Depot didn't have their seasonal
Right.
things outside. I think that's
Right.
probably the issue. So,
I don't know when you guys shop,
Yeah, I
because I
don't
can always
either.
park in front.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking at them thinking,
You guys
I
go
don't
in
think
there on
there's a parking
Saturday
problem.
morning at 10 o'clock?
yeah.
I'm just
I
kidding.
never have an
It
issue.
is, I think it is a seasonal thing, because they do block off a quarter at least of their parking lot.
Yeah.
So,
I believe the seasonal.
That's probably really good
About
advice.
90 parking spaces.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done.
Maybe they could move that to the side in between the, them and the car wash or something.
Anyway, something to think about.
Yep.
My question has to do with the traffic. The traffic going back to Stern. So there's congestion when you're trying to get back to Stearns to go east from that Home Depot or Sonic area. And
In this general area, and then coming this way.
yes, at the same time as there's people coming from across the street where Bannerman's, that parking lot, and they're cutting across traffic to go also east.
Going east also, right.
That's already very congested, so as far as that traffic issue goes, have we given consideration to that?
They have to provide some traffic analysis. This intersection is, as you know, is going to undergo
Major
complete
repair.
renovation. And part of the renovation is to allow, and this isn't a great slide, but it's to allow a better turn into the site from out here. They're going to actually create a left turn lane, and there's going to be a barrier in here. And then this intersection is going to have it's going to be a four-leg intersection, so you'll have dual lefts. The design for this intersection is intended to make better access both to this shopping center on this side and also on the west side. So ultimately, that problem will be addressed by the intersection improvement. You're seeing some of the preliminary work done. Hopefully, they will continue on. I know that there was some stoppage in it, not that much, but it'll be done next year when this project will come online, and hopefully that won't be an issue, because it is, I agree, it is one right now.
Has anyone ever talked, or has the petitioner ever talked to the state about a right-in, right-out on 59? Is that even doable, possible? But somewhere to the south of your existing lot and to the north of the Kentucky Fried Chicken there? I mean, no.
Go ahead, Larry.
I don't know specifically, as indicated, we are doing the traffic stuff, we'll ask our consultant.
That would at least give, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That would at least give people an alternative way to get out.
yes, they could
Instead of
right
going
in,
clear
right
down
out.
by the bank.
I remember this lot when it came before us before, and, but there was never intended to be any access to this lot from Route 59, correct? Huh? Yeah. In fact, there was even some talk, that they could enter the bank area when that came before. It's through the gas station.
Originally, that was that was a cross-access point. That, I don't think that's going to be, those curb cuts here are going to be eliminated with this new intersection improvement.
Yeah.
So we will have access to the site from Route 59?
No, you won't.
But that's what I'm saying. It would be great if we had it right there, as we come off.
We
of
tried to
59.
avoid that because of the backup that would happen with the traffic lights and whatnot. And
Well, no,
Access is going to be
If
this
you're going
traffic right
south,
here. And this,
As you go, someone goes south, that would just simply be a right in to that parking lot into Home Depot, and a right out. You couldn't,
Or left?
Oh, yeah, they wanted to avoid traffic turning. If you're northbound of 59, they wanted to avoid any left turns into that.
you couldn't do it. I mean, you wouldn't be able to. That's
right
not
in,
what- that's
right
not- I'm not proposing that at all.
Your question is right in, right out.
Yeah.
they would have to look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would alleviate a lot of issues. I think it'd be something that would really benefit the traffic flow right there as well, personally.
There was a Chase Bank proposed, I'm not sure this exact spot.
It is,
there was extensive traffic studies done originally, and there was conditions of cross-access. There was an access granted by the adjoining gas station to the east.
A lot of that's going
Northeast.
to be eliminated with this intersection improvement.
Right.
So that's, they have the same,
Okay.
I think you have the same traffic engineer that did the chase. Is that right, Larry, or am I mistaken on that?
Well, actually, we retained the traffic engineer that the village used at the time.
Yeah, it was originally denied, then it was reconsidered and approved, and never built.
Yeah, so those considerations, I think, would be important when it comes back, even before it hits planning session, would be parking, and then the possibility of a right-in, right-out on 59, and then a better understanding of how when the improvements are completed at Stearns and 59, what it'll look like.
Will the Plan Commission have an opportunity to see this plan with the improvements?
If you forward it on to them, yes.
Yeah.
They will see it as this is. If you don't think it's ready, you have to tell us. If you want to forward it on, it will go, this will be the plan, and Larry can have addressed to his clients the questions that you are asking.
A number of us.
We will address the issues that you raised tonight as best we can and present.
Well,
So a traffic
I-
study would be completed before it goes to plan commission?
Yes, we'd actually start the traffic
Yeah.
study in anticipation and hope that it would be referred.
My opinion is that I'm not comfortable with it going to plan commission until there's traffic study.
Yeah, I think our traffic consultant should review what their traffic consultant did and give us feedback on the situation.
The traffic study is fairly complete, other than obviously inquiry about the issues that the board is raising now. We can file it with staff before it goes to the planning commission.
There is some, the traffic engineer has taken a look at it, and there is a statement in here about the traffic impact analysis. It estimates that the outlot will leave a surplus of parking for Home Depot. It is also noted that 10 stacking spaces provided for the pickup window will be located outside of adjacent parking aisles. And the report also notes that perhaps 1 or 2 additional stacked vehicles could be accommodated for the drive-through. And the traffic analysis states that the retail lot will not adversely impact existing off-site access level of service on the existing roads. So so far, that's where they're at. So they did address those concerns and are still working on them.
Was that their traffic consultant or ours?
That was their traffic impact, and our guy is looking at it.
Oh,
And I don't know if he's concurred yet, but
I think before we move this on, maybe we should have at least information from our traffic consultant confirming this.
Respectfully, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
I think so. This is a long ways.
This is early in the process. We have a process. Let's send it to the Plan Commission, get that started. Council, you're going to take care of the questions and make your presentation to the Plan Commission. And then it'll come back to the Village Board Committee for consideration before we go to a final vote for the Village Board. So you're talking maybe 6-8 weeks anyway,
Yeah.
so there's time.
I would also assume that the board would then have the benefit of having the plan commission not only evaluate our consultant's report and recommendations, but your consultant's response.
Yep. Jim, can you put up the rendering again, the zoning location map, the one with colors? I have to have the colors. There we go. So the thing that makes sense to me is the road that goes on the other side, right there. Why wouldn't we do the same thing on the other side of 59? Line it up. Right in, right out. It's right in, right out on that side, I think, isn't it?
that has been eliminated. That right-in, right-out was proposed, and then they took it out. Back in, what was that, Home Depot?
Yes, and added more parking.
And they put that parking in there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's going to be a major consideration when it comes back, is if there's another access point into that place.
I think they should just look at it and see
Yeah.
if they can get it. IDOT may just say, we're not going to give it to you, or they'll give it to you with the loss of some parking.
Well, yeah, you'd
That
probably,
would be all right. I mean,
It's possible.
yeah.
Frankly, I don't know if the client has or hasn't
Okay.
I think it'd be a real advantage to that lot and getting into the building for the client, for your client, and just traffic flow in general. Okay.
Good.
So this will come back before our committee of the whole?
Oh, yeah, it'll be a committee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe not.
It'll come back to committee after they go to the Plan Commission and Zoning Board.
Throwing that out there.
No, I agree with,
So we are recommending it move on to Planning Commission with the suggestions made.
NCB.
And we'll
Thank you
get
for
more
being here.
detail on the traffic layout. Good.
All right, we'll move on to our second item, Rana Meal Solutions, Plant 2. And with that, I will have Mr. Fonzie do this one.
Lasagna.
We have Sal Luciano on behalf of Rana in the audience. They are hoping to build out the rest of their campus on the property they own. This is Spitzer, the existing Rana building, and this is Brewster Creek Boulevard. They are proposing a rather large 300,000+ square foot building and asking for a preliminary final PUD plan for construction of this building. They have required, they're asking for special uses for the PUD and fence height variations and a reduction in their number of required parking. It's going to be basically their corporate headquarters. They're moving some of their, this is a large office component on this building, rather nicely appointed with a mural and windows. They're having a 3 levels on the inside, as well as the large manufacturing for the production of a lasagna line. And this will be their 10th line, Sal? 10 lines of production. And as you know, Rana pasta is all over the place. This is just some of the elevations.
Literally with parking and everything.
Yeah. This is how the building lays out in relationship to the floor plan. And then just some of the landscaped islands and parking. There's a rather large parking area that they will accommodate their expanse of their employees. And they're also in front of you prior to going on for zoning plan commission review. And Sal is here to answer any questions. They have a big presence in Bartlett, as everybody knows, and we're looking forward to them adding this building and making an even bigger presence.
I want to thank you guys for making an investment in Bartlett and in the Brewster Creek area. One of my questions is, what's the reason for the 8-foot high fence?
Yes.
Okay. Consistent. And then has parking ever been an issue over in this area of Brewster Creek?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue at the moment. We're actually hoping with the new parking lot that we're going to be having, it's going to help with that. And this parking area will be allowed 350 spaces, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're actually parking across the street at the old Dania building, right where the sun is. So that this new building is going to help our existing parking issue.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Can we bring this back directly to the board?
Yeah, I think we would probably want to, unless the planning commission comes up with some rudimentary reasons why they think the committee should look at it again, I would suggest that they review it and then we'd go straight to board. Sal, where are you at with your plans right now? Is this the first lasagna line that you guys have anywhere? Yeah. In America, yeah.
wow.
I hear nothing about great things about your food. Who's Are you moving an office from another location? Fantastic. The only thing left is to become a member of the chamber. All right. Keep asking me about that, Sal, and I say, they'll do it eventually. He's just too busy. He's building stuff. Yeah.
Do you have samples of your lasagna for the board?
Don't send them just to the mayor. He doesn't share.
So we'll forward
Hey,
this
Jim.
on to the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Plan Commission for further review and to conduct the required public hearing. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Sam.
Just as an aside, I'm just curious, what's our maximum height in Bartlett for a building?
In the industrial park, we raised it to 45 feet.
45.
I wondered, okay,
And we did that to accommodate some of the taller, clear-story buildings.
okay, good.
That was for stacking.
Yes.
Good.
All right, we'll move on to our third item, which is 802 East Devon Avenue, their addition. And with that, Jim can walk us through that.
We have a 802 East Devon, and many people remember it as the main steel building. Dimitri Polo-Kafalis is here, and Dimitri
Bless you.
last asked us for a Class 6B incentive, which he got for the building. It's a tax incentive from Cook County, and what he's doing with it is actually incredible. He's taking that building, and he's asking for a third site plan amendment. Main Steel was originally approved in '86 for the original site plan. They did a site plan amendment, which is a little dark in here, in 1988. And now Dimitri would like to make this third site plan amendment and turn the Main Steel building into a multi-tenant building. Looking, these are the elevations that they are proposing to add. They want to add 67,735 square feet to it and make, obviously, some masonry elevations on there and add exterior docks and using the existing curb cut. They are asking for a parking variation for the reduction in the parking from 140 to 95 spaces. The 95 spaces includes 4 handicapped accessible spots. There is also a little wetland in the corner that they are mitigating, and they would like to ask for a special use under our ordinance to mitigate that wetland. And if they do that, they also have to comply with the Corps' requirement for doing that mitigation. Their engineers are looking into that. So this is one of the renderings of what it will look like. Obviously, another one, they've given us several renderings of it, and then they've got a nice landscape plan. The wetland is generally located in that corner of the property and kind of close to the railroad tracks. They also are asking for approval to move forward onto Plan Commission and Zoning Board for the public hearings. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, and Dimitri's also here.
Any questions from the committee?
The biggest one I have is once again, there's just no space there to offload parking. And that's a big building for 90 spaces.
It's a tight side yard.
There's no, I mean, I love the plans. I think the building looks wonderful. It's a huge improvement to that area. You've already done a lot of work there. I'm just concerned that there's no neighboring parking lots to even lease parking from. Is there any other, what alternative solutions? Is there any alternative solutions, Dimitri, that you've looked into for parking? What tells me that this isn't going to be like a parking lot with double parked cars all day? I think it's tricky.
Reduction of 50 spots?
Yeah. At that big of a building.
we have anyone else, or do we know who might move into this facility? No, we don't. But each tenant's going to be kind of restricted by so many spaces, and if their use exceeds that, then they're not a good fit. So is there anything we can write in there that restricts each tenant to a certain amount of space or so many parking spaces?
I don't know. If it's,
I think that's a little premature. I think that what we should do is, send it over to the ZBA and Plan Commission, get their feedback, and then see what that is. And then we should add something in for number of parking spaces and whatnot,
Yeah.
take a look at it that time.
I don't have any problem sending it to the planning and zoning. I'd just like to get their recommendation and comments on if they think parking is an issue with this type of use.
They will.
So that's my thoughts. Anyone else?
Till they have tenants, it's difficult
Yeah,
to
yeah.
figure out what the parameters of that would be, but there is the ability, legally to come up with a condition like that. I just don't know without more facts what that would be.
You get a warehouse in there with mostly just storage and not that many employees, you're probably okay. You get something that's intense manufacturing, you might have some issues with the
Like
parking.
Rana, if that were there, something like that, they wouldn't have enough parking. But a warehouse facility, half dozen employees.
What's the requirement, Jim? Is it 145?
140 is what
140, and we got 90, so we're 50
they were
shy.
asking for 95, right.
All right. Well, if there's no other comments, so.
Yeah, we'll forward this on to the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Plan Commission for further review and to conduct a public hearing and bring it back to the committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you.
That's all we have under planning and zoning tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Finally, on our Committee of the Whole meeting this evening, under Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman Daney.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item on the agenda is the home rule sales tax. And this was discussed at our July 18th Committee of the Whole meeting. Information about the utility taxes is in our packet. 0.5% home rule sales tax would generate about $800,000 of additional income. This is for discussion only, and Todd, I'm going to ask you if you could please continue.
Thank you, Trustee Daney. Yes, we have discussed this a couple times. What started this was we passed our budget for the 17-18 year with using about approximately $400,000 general fund money. We're looking into revenue options that would fill this gap. In the meantime, the state has changed the income tax sharing, which was reduce our income taxes approximately $400,000 this coming year. And so we recommended 0.5% increase. It would basically fill the gap of where we're at right now. It wouldn't replace any of the positions that are left open or fill any increases going forward, but it would fill the gap where we're at right now. As part of the discussion, we led to utility taxes. So on the second page, along with the chart of neighboring towns, and home rule sales tax rates was added, our neighboring towns and their utility taxes for gas and electric utility tax. You'll see on the gas use tax, there's also two towns that have the sales tax. That's kind of the older version. It started out as sales tax, went to use tax, so they still have sales tax on the gas that's purchased in-state, and then the use tax is when you can buy your gas from a different supplier out of state. So it's just a combination of the older system and then the newer system of the use tax like we have, which is based on the amount of therms that are used. But don't worry about that too much. Then is a history of our utility taxes on the lower, the bottom chart. 2012, they were implemented. In May, the beginning of the fiscal 15-16, the electric use rate was cut in half. The gas was left alone. Then the beginning of 16 and 17, the gas rate was cut in half and the electric was cut in half again. So currently, the average homeowner, approximately $27.50 a year in gas use tax. It's down to $7.50 approximately electric use tax per year. And the budget then is $500,000 for gas use and approximately $160,000 for electric use per year. So right there is kind of gets us up to speed where we left off. Some new information on here. One thing to note is that the reason why we keep talking about 0.25%, 0.5%, we can only increase it in increments of 0.25%. So we can't tweak it any more than 0.25% either way. So I'm happy to answer questions. We're looking for, we want to implement a home rule sales tax. What would the rate should be?
Well, nobody really wants to sit here and any tax that we have is not taken lightly by anybody on this board. And, you know, what they're doing downstate, we don't have any control over. When are services going to be jeopardized?
Well, services are already, we've already been holding positions open and not filling positions, basically. So there's a list of positions that are open, including building inspectors, code enforcement officers. We have a police officer that's open, a number of positions in the police department that are still open. That's what we did to get it down to only using $400,000 of the general fund balance for this year. Going forward, right, we need more revenue sources if we're going to continue with cost increases. One thing that we have been doing is we've been not increasing the property taxes for a number of years. When we originally implemented the utility tax, that's when we stopped, or that was in place of raising property taxes. And then when we reduced the utility taxes, we continued to not increase property taxes, so that kind of led to where we're at now.
And I don't know if you saw in the Daily Herald today, but the city of Elgin is having the exact same conversation. They're concerned about dipping into their reserves to balance their budget and the hit from the state as well. So they're having that same conversation, and one of the things that was reported is, and it is true for us to hear too, is that the cost of providing those services isn't going down. The cost of salt isn't going down. The cost of, what we purchase to provide services isn't going down as well. We can do the best we can shopping and cutting costs where we can and holding positions open. But just like anything else, some of the things that we don't have control over, those prices are going up.
It's just a shame, because I remember all the discussions we had about the utility tax, and we cut the utility tax. Now we're coming back and saying, well, we're going to potentially have a home rule sales tax. So we took a tax and we eliminated it, and now we're replacing that, so to speak, for the revenue with another tax. So
Yeah, I have some.
I guess it's a different kind of tax. The advantages.
But it's still a tax.
Right. There's different advantages of the different types of tax. One thing about the home rule sales tax is that it's just on your retail purchases, and if you don't buy a lot of stuff, then you don't pay as much tax.
It's just a perception of the tax and how someone accepts that tax and the name of that tax. But by all means, I want nothing to do with the property tax increase.
Well, I also think another point about the home rule sales tax is that the pool of people that we collect that from is now not limited to just our residents.
I'm
It's
sorry?
people who, well, for the home rule sales tax, the pool that is, that we can potentially
It's more
collect that from
diversified.
is more diversified.
Yeah.
It's not just our residents.
At the same time, we have, and we've talked about this, we talked about this during the strategic planning too, is this perception issue. So you've got, Cook County has their soda tax, the fire district is coming back for another referendum. U46, I'm sure will figure out a way to raise their taxes. So I think we have to be very careful here. And I, as part of our conversation, I'd like to see if we had to fill this $410,000 hole in the budget because of the cut in the LGDF, what is that going to look like? I think it's important that we take a look at that. Maybe we're comfortable with it, maybe we're not. But I think people will, at a minimum, expect us to do that and take a very hard look at what it's going to look like. Rather than this, the haphazard, well, if it's sweetened, we'll tax it.
I can kind of tell you what that's going to look like. It's going to look like the things that we cut. We're going to hold off capital projects. We're going to hold off big capital purchases. The equipment will just get older. And, when you're talking numbers like that, it's people or equipment. Otherwise it's just nibbling around the edges. So, we won't be buying the dump truck. We won't be buying, whatever we need, and we're going to push off, replacing a sidewalk or, fixing a bike path. I mean, unless there's a grant for it. I mean, things will just take longer to repair.
What about some efficiencies? Like in-
Efficiencies? I think we do a really good job of being efficient. And I think a number of the things that we've implemented this year have upped our efficiency. A lot of the automating things that we're doing is improving our efficiency so that we can work with the leaner staff. Providing credit cards opens up the door to doing more things online. So I think we're moving toward more of those greater efficiencies where we can operate and do more with the staff that we have. So I think we're looking at, we hold the line on our people, and I think the things that we've implemented so far will help us do that.
I like all the other trustees take this tax raise very seriously, and I'm not so certain that we've exhausted all the possible ways that we might fill that gap. I know in previous years, we talked about the whole insurance for the village. We talked about self-funding. We looked at different ways to reduce the cost. I know it's one of our big expenses. I'm not so certain that that's a discussion that couldn't be, talked about again.
Is that in September? Yeah, we're preparing to have that discussion in September to talk about some of the different options that we have available to us. If you'd like us to look at self-funding again, we can certainly do that.
Or at least a partial self-funding or something of that nature, something where I think we could lower some expenses with that if it's done correctly. I don't know. I think it's certainly things to look into. I just wonder if we've had enough time to really think about things, and my inclination is to potentially table this for further discussion at a later time before we jump right into agreeing to put a tax rate on somebody.
Well, we're just at committee right now, so.
We have a timeline on this, October 1, I believe. Isn't that correct? We have to have something in the,
Implemented this year, it would be October 1, yes.
so
I would like to make a comment. I think this board has to be extremely cautious of nickel and diming our staff to the extent where they've already been as efficient as I've been around for a while, and I know how efficient and how strapped they are right now. You start nickel and diming the staff and don't trust the fact that they're being efficient, that's where you start running into situations where you have accidents, where you have morale problems. So we need to make sure that we're very cautious of that. When you're questioning whether or not we had to use $400,000 of our general fund, which we did, and $400,000 is taken away from the state, this isn't a hard problem. We have $800,000 hole next year, and they're trying to fix it. So I don't mind coming back to committee, but I'd just caution the board that we do not want to nickel and dime the staff.
I certainly think the staff is doing a good job, but we can't keep putting tax increases on the public. And I have some real reservations about adding any other tax increase in any way to the public. If we can do things that allow us to get by.
If we can, and I would venture, I would challenge the board to just try to dig into that budget. Dig in personally, because I have. I've dug in personally with them, and I've dug in personally. So dig in and try to see where you think there's some fat.
Well, that's what I said. I think the insurance may be an area that we could save some money. I think it's a possibility that if we are self-funded, or at least partially self-funded, I've heard estimates of maybe $100,000 or $200,000 that could be potentially saved with that. So I don't know. I just think we need to look at it to some degree.
I want to say from the business perspective, which I don't think we brought up, is that a lot of our businesses already have the challenge of competing with other communities. And even though those other communities, some of them also have this home rule tax, the perception is that we need to go outside of Bartlett to do our shopping and to do our purchasing. And I think that's a challenge for our local businesses. And to add a tax, even if it's small and even if it's spread among people who maybe aren't residents of Bartlett, from a business perspective, I think that's a consideration too. We don't want to lose more purchases outside of, we don't want to lose people to go and purchase outside of Bartlett. And I understand, and I do think our staff is terrific and working hard on this. And I wasn't here for the strategic planning the last time, but from a business perspective, I think that we need to consider that as well. As they leave, not only are they taking that tax, they're taking their entire purchase from our local business. And I think we need to be very cautious of.
I think your customers are well aware that there's a reason why people don't shop at Caputo's, because there's a 3% food tax. So they do come to Bartlett. And we are beneath all the surrounding communities, and I hate to use that because I don't want to be a lemming and say, wait, let's do this because the other towns are doing it. We can't compare ourselves to other towns. We have to take care of our town, and I'm not directing this at you, I'm just happen to be staring at you, so I'm sorry. There's a reason why we haven't increased the tax levy for the last 10 years, is that because we want to boast that and say we haven't been raising the taxes. Now we put ourselves in a position where we have to do something because of the state situation. So I like your example. Maybe this year we don't fix the bike paths. Maybe this year we don't buy a truck. Let's not impose this tax until we get a better idea of what's going on for next year. If we can cut some things from the budget, then do so. But just to jump on the bandwagon to throw another tax out there, after we just reduced another one, perception doesn't look too good. I don't think we need to do this. If we're $400,000 short, then we need to hold off on something. Next year's budget, we can reevaluate. Is it something that we have to do right now? Because everybody else has it? I don't like that idea. Just my opinion.
Well, you asked for that chart. I wanted to say, that was a request of the board to see what our neighbors are charging. That is certainly something we can do. We can look at it going forward. We can look at it when we're going through the budget review process. One of the things that I personally find frustrating is that the village has done the hard work, and you have made a priority to keep our levy down, but everybody else's levy goes up, and we get the phone calls that says, hey, my tax bill went up. And it's nice to be able to say, well, not our 9% of your tax bill, that didn't go up. But it's very frustrating that, we put in the hard work and cut and cut and cut, and the perception doesn't get out to the community as much as we would like it to.
And I think our taxes have stayed pretty level for probably 12 years, because I did my research on my water bill, my utility tax, and my property taxes.
Like Todd said, we begin our review of our health insurance in September. We begin putting together the budget in October. We can certainly give you the mid-year review and the 6-month review at that time that I think will answer some of the questions that you have about how we are doing, where are we cutting, how are we fitting into the budget. That might be a good opportunity for you to take a look at this again after you've had the opportunity to look at those two things.
When do you think we might be able to take a look at that?
The 6-month budget review, we normally do the first meeting in October. Right, Don?
So as far as implementing any tax, home rule sales
We're outside
tax,
the window.
it's out the window, right?
Well, I'm kind of getting that perception from you that that window is closing.
Yeah.
So,
No, I really don't believe that's what I heard. What I'm hearing is that no one wants to raise taxes. But if this is the only outlet that we have, in lieu of doing something else, be heavily considered. That's my understanding.
I would like to see how it would affect our average resident. If we cut our budget by 400,000, how would it affect?
by 8.
Or 800,000, how would that affect our average resident? And I think that needs to be laid out. It needs to be, is their sidewalk not going to get fixed quick enough? Is it going to take longer to get a building permit? I don't know. I think that's what I would like to know. Is it going to take longer for a business to get a permit in town or get it reviewed? So I think I want to know how it would affect our average resident if we cut our budget by 800,000.
I think, and I'm sure that they can attempt to do that, but in the real world of business, it's not what happens to the average resident the minute that you cut that tax. It's what happens to the village as a whole as you nickel and dime over time. So, I mean, I can hear what the board's saying. Nobody likes to raise taxes. But I also have 100% trust in the staff being very efficient. And when they're coming to us saying, we need to find a way, it might not be this, but we need to find a way to shore up this 800,000. That should be our only concern. It shouldn't be questioning whether they need it. It should be shoring up the 800,000 that they say that they need.
That wasn't my point. Just if we're gonna institute a sales tax and we have to share that tax with the state of Illinois because they have a processing fee, find a different way. I don't want to give them a dime because they're the ones that took the $400,000 away from us. So find a different way.
At the risk of beating this to death, can we try to come back with a little bit more information, some of the things that you heard at the next committee meeting? We'll have this as a sidebar, the sales tax. We know that that's one option. Trustee Kammer brought up some options. Let's see what that might look like. Let's see what it might look like if we don't shore that up, if we're getting into the general fund again, if we have to lay people off, what that is. So let's just get a broad brush at the next committee meeting, and maybe we can come to a consensus of a better direction. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
That's all I have.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Kammer, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kammer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Brenya?
Yes.
Hopkins? Ranky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.